It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Monday, March 17th, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content. It really thinks there's a lot to dig into about this unsuccessful homestand.
There's a lot.
You're Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. I've been podcasting about the Flyers, the NHL, and hockey for a decade. I'm here with prospect expert and Flyers credentialed reporter for 19 years, Russ Cohen. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money and use the code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. To keep up with all of our episodes and Flyers news, you can find us at Locked On Flyers on all your favorite socials. And of course, here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We are going to look at the 7-game homestand as a whole. We're going to get to our nemesis of the week because it is, in fact, Monday, and we do that on Mondays. That game on Saturday against Carolina, though, I it was very frustrating for many, many reasons. I think, Sam Ersson is having a typical Sam Ersson performance. Like, I didn't think it was necessarily better or worse than his usual outing, but his usual performance is not going to cut it in the grand scheme as a number one goaltender.
Right. You could see that the video scouting for Carolina said try for the corners, and they kept shooting
Mm-hmm.
for the corners. And to Sam's credit, he was covering those. It wasn't a problem in that game. Other things were, but they were trying it because they had the advanced scouting on that. Yeah, it's funny. Sam has become a touchy subject in the media because if you say something, it's kind of like, well, he's only 25. Sometimes it takes till 27, and you can keep pushing the goalposts. That's fine. But I do think there's a point where you look at him and say, okay, uh, he does look like a backup. I'm not sure that's going to change. So Sam is an NHL goalie. That's fine. He's not
Yep.
making the big saves. That's not
Right.
fine. And that's where we're at.
Right, and, yeah, I'm not suggesting he's not an NHL goalie. I
Right.
just think he's not a number 1 goaltender if you
Right.
wanna take your team to the next level moving
Right.
forward. And I think that, either some things are gonna have to change or they're gonna have to figure out something else. And, obviously I wanna see how the season plays out here and
Mhm.
see what he can do. Like, I'm not writing him off as a goaltender,
No,
but I think, we're at a point now where we like pretty much know what we've got here.
there's a
So,
realistic look at him. Data's
yes.
out there.
Yeah. Now, aside from that, obviously way too many giveaways in the game against Carolina. They gave up way too many scoring chances to Carolina. And, you look at the block shots they had, that even adds to the number of shots that shot attempts that the Flyers allowed. And that was a ridiculous number of block shots. And, to be fair to the Flyers, we haven't seen a game like this in a long time where they blocked 30 plus shots, right? It used to
Mhm.
be more of a pattern. Now
Mhm.
it's more of an anomaly. And so I do want to make sure there's that asterisk there. But this was bad. 31 block shots means you were allowing an additional 31 shot attempts here.
Yeah, I remember looking at a couple things after the second period. One of them was high danger chances were 9-3 for Carolina. That was
Mhm.
pretty obvious from the eye test. I remember someone asked me, I said, I bet you they have like 4, and it was 3. And the other thing was, and this is something, we can get more into depth as the show goes on, but like even Travis Konecny had 1 shot on goal after 2 periods. It's almost as if like
Right.
the Flyers get yelled at in between the second and third period and they try better in the third period, but the first 2 periods are just not good hockey. And this is like becoming a thing now.
And the second period in particular.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that has very often been the case. Although in the third period this time around, they were even down 4-1 in high danger chances and 13-7 in scoring chances overall. So they couldn't even quite get back up to even, which is
Right.
what they've done in the past in the
Yes.
third period is get back up to even or be slightly in an advantage in terms of scoring chances. But with a team like Carolina, like once you're behind the eight ball, you're done, right?
And they kinda knew that. It was kind of like, the mental weight was weighing on them every time
Yeah.
they fell behind further. But there's things they could do to try and get on the board first, and I still don't think they're doing enough of them. But, we can get into that at some point.
Yeah, and like special teams did not help them.
No.
The penalty kill is super rough. I think that, they've been giving up shorthanded goals and
Yeah,
power play goals a lot more frequently recently. And, it is a shame because the penalty kill structure was so good for so
it
long.
was.
Somebody was in my mention saying, well, it's because Scott Lawton's gone. And I think, yes, to a small degree, but the
S
structure and the discipline is the more important aspect.
Right. It was breaking down before that. The
Correct.
I'm gonna just say this, I mean, I've watched hockey for a long time. For a team to go 0 for in the power play in a 7-game homestand, I don't think
Yeah.
I've ever experienced. I don't think I've ever seen that from any team. That's crazy.
It's, just unacceptable, and, like, I'll say it before I'll say it again, if Rocky Thompson isn't gone, like, by the end of exit interview day, I'm going to be very confused.
Right. Yeah,
That's
we all will be.
I think that's gonna be a huge thing to look at. Looking at some individual player performances here, I do think, Mitchkov had a generally good game. I
Mhm.
know, I think they've kind of stuck to the just let him do his thing edict with him, and I think that's helped a lot, and
Yeah.
so that was good to see. I would say that, Tyson Forster, I thought had a pretty solid game. He had a couple mistakes, but I also thought he was being more aggressive and trying to create in a way and that was noticeable that maybe some of
Yeah,
the
he
other
was.
guys weren't.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's truth to that. He definitely was putting that extra oomph into it, and and as far as Michkov, he's really trying to set up his line mates, and they're not doing him
Yep,
any favors.
I
None.
know. So it got to the point where he's trying those like really bad angle shots because he's like,
Yes.
well,
What
I got to
else?
do it myself,
Right.
I think that was a pretty obvious thing between those two guys. I do want to talk again about Jacob Peltier, and I know
Hmm.
we've been harping on trying to get him more ice time to really get a good look at him. And I still firmly believe that in this particular game, he had under 10 minutes of ice time again, which is not great. Um, the fourth line overall was a -2 on the night, but I don't think it's on him necessarily. And he had some scoring chances of his own. He had the second highest number of scoring chances for the Flyers in that game with 3. Travis Konechny had 5 in under 10 minutes to have the second highest scoring chances on the team says a lot about him and his play. One of those scoring chances was high danger, by the way, which not a lot of Flyers got
No.
this game. So the fact that he was able to make the most of his time to me says just give him like 3 extra minutes and bump him up to the third line for a period at least. Like get him into the flow of the game more.
It's the least they could do for him. I kind of set up a firestorm because some fans are thinking he's just not good enough. Some are like telling me, hey, with Calgary, he wasn't even playing. I get all those things, but they traded for him for a reason. They made him included in the deal for a reason. He still has term. And midway or even longer into the second period, he only had 3 minutes of ice time. So it's kind of like he can't do anything under those circumstances, even if he was a terrific young player. So he does need a real chance, and this is where Danny Briere is failing because now if he's telling John to do it and John's not doing it, then that's just something that's going to roll into the rest of this season. But it's going to hurt this player because then the team's going to look at it like, well, he's in his RFA year. I guess we're just going to give him a 1 year deal. And then what if he were to blossom next year? It may not happen, but what if he
Right.
were? Then all of a sudden
Yeah.
he could say, well, I don't want to come back because look how I was treated. Like you don't know what these will do long term. But he had to go into the coach's office already to ask for more playing time, and he's barely getting it.
Yeah, and I think you look at Emil Andre in a different but net effect similar situation, right? In terms of not being used effectively, he was playing on his offside.
I mean, I just didn't get that. I mean, you have Nick Sealer there, play him on his offside. To play Andre with Zamula made no sense anyhow, and
No.
clearly it showed because Zamula had the worst game I think I've seen him play all year. So he definitely should be the next guy scratched. But there shouldn't be this rotation where we're all looking for somebody to get scratched. It should just be playing players to their strengths. And hey, if a veteran has to kind of take the hit by playing the offside, that's okay. But you want the developing player to be comfortable in what he's doing, meaning more power play time, more time on the ice, less on his offside.
Right, and especially with Ristolainen still banged up and not
Correct.
available to play, let's try and put people in their best spot here
Right.
because this is who we got now,
But
right?
it's not happening. The only player who's
Yeah.
in his best spot is Nick Delorier, and it's a horrible spot.
Yeah. Well, the fact that he played again, yet another ding on this game, considering everything and who might be available to call up from Lehigh Valley. We're going to
Yep.
talk more about Lehigh Valley on tomorrow's show on Phantoms Tuesday. But in the meantime, we're going to look at kind of the good, the bad, and the mixed bag of the homestand, and we'll do that coming up next.
Eating healthy doesn't have to be complicated. With Factor, you get chef-made, dietitian-approved meals that are ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes, so you can fuel your body without the hassle of cooking. Factor meals arrive fresh, never frozen, and with 40 options across 8 dietary preferences, each week you can customize your menu to fit your goals, whether that's calorie smart, protein plus, or keto. I love how Factor keeps you on track with healthy, delicious meals without the time-consuming prep. Factor also offers smoothies, breakfast, and snacks so you could have something nutritious and ready to go. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/factor podcast and use code factor podcast to get 50% off of your first box with free shipping. That's code factor podcast at factormeals.com/factor podcast to get 50% off free shipping with your first box.
In addition to Phantoms Tuesday, tomorrow we will talk about tonight's game against the Tampa Bay Lightning on the road, and it's a chance at a reset, I think. But looking at the homestand, that's really where the team should have been able to stabilize a lot of
Yes.
things
And
and
we're not
gain
saying they
some
should win every
confidence.
game. Yeah, it's just
Right,
better
right.
efforts.
Just have more complete games, better confidence, and really kind of look at what you could do in terms of the guys you called up and giving them the opportunities, right?
Right. Yep.
That's a prime time to do that. I don't know that they accomplished that. But I do want to point out some of the positives
Mhm.
here. And I would say the biggest positive of the homestand was Bobby Brink's performance. I thought, aside from maybe 1.5 games, he generally played really well, was aggressive on the boards,
Mhm.
wound up with 2 goals and 2 assists in the 7 games. I think that was pretty good.
No, it's pretty good. I mean, his play has picked up a bit. I think he has like 32 points. I'd like to see him get more. Maybe he'll finish strong. But yeah, for a bad homestand, I'm with you.
Yeah, and then I would say, with an exception of that last game against Carolina, where I thought he was a little behind the play for a good chunk of it, I would say Sean Couturier had a good homestand. Now, we talked about kinda post 4 Nations a little bit, where we felt like the break was very good for him and he was able to
Hmm.
recharge, and I think part of it, the successful homestand for him was due to that, and now he's maybe getting a little tired again. But that's, we're going to keep track of that as the Flyers go on this road trip. But he had a goal and 2 assists. And again, I think he was just generally more of a presence. And we saw the spurts of good play with him and Mitchkov together. So I would say overall, a good couple of weeks for Sean Couturier.
Yeah, he's not the problem here. Like, you could say he's not the same guy. He's not going to ever score 80 points again. And we'll both agree with you, but he's not the problem.
Yeah, and then obviously the corollary there is Mitch Koff, right? We
Right.
talked about him in our recap of the Canes game being a bright spot, a goal and 2 assists over the homestand. He wasn't great defensively, like we said, but that's
True.
okay.
Yeah.
What we've been saying is just let him go and build his confidence on the offensive side of his game, and then we'll go from there. He was a -7 in the 7 games. Not great, but, again, we're not judging on that right now because the
No.
team wasn't great. So a lot of it that is a team stat for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he's a rookie here, and while he has a certain amount of pro experience, his line mates should be shepherding him to some degree, and they're not. He's trying to pull the weight of his line and trying to make them more effective than they seemingly are. And that's a hard task for a first year player in a league. It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I would say that the other positive for me, the other biggest positive was Ole
Mhm.
because we had been talking, I think, for months and almost years going back into last
It's
season
years.
about giving him a proper run with the Flyers. He's getting that now. And he had 3 assists in only 5 games played because he was only in 5 of the 7 games on
Right.
the road trip. He had the highest points per game of the homestand on the Flyers, except for Kuzmenko, who only played a couple games and he's gone, right?
Right.
So, like, first off, that's a bigger picture ding on the Flyers, but also very, very good for Ole
Yes.
Lickfeld.
No, it is good for Ole, and I think some fans are starting to warm up to him because now they're starting to see that he does have a constant offensive drive in his
Mhm.
game and does
The
become a
forechecking,
catalyst.
the
The
battle.
checking's there. He does win some puck battles. I think they're starting to see
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm very pleased for him.
Mhm.
And if nothing else, I feel like as long as they keep him up for the rest of the season and whatever decision they make from there, I'm cool with just because I feel like they've given him the proper shot.
Right. No, no, this is good for him.
Yeah. And then finally, I would say the return of Ryan Paling after his injury, I think has been generally good. I was worried about him and would he kind of slow down his game and his speed is there. He's had some great scoring chances along the way, a goal and an assist in the 7 games, which for him is pretty normal, I would say. And so I'm just very happy that he seems to be okay.
Yeah, one of those 3 high danger chances in the first 2 periods was a nice breakaway that was stopped by
Mhm.
Kochetkov, but it was a nice play. And so
Yeah.
that was yeah, you could see the speed burst is back. The face-offs, so again, this whole team, the face-offs have just dropped off the map, but Paling used to be better at face-offs. I hope that
Right.
that part comes back in his game.
Yeah, I would say so. Now, the negatives, I would say we've talked about not playing Jacob Peltier enough and,
Yeah,
could talk about that ad nauseum. Nick Delorier played all 7 games, which why?
it's
Why?
wild. It's just wild to me.
Yeah, and then, the continuing saga of Travis Konechny trying to get off the schneid. 2 assists in the 7 games, and he was a -6, and you could really see just him giving up on place defensively pretty
Yes.
regularly
Yeah.
during
I
the
mean,
homestand.
he used to be a lot more aggressive trying to turn defense into offense. He's kinda backed off of that now. Like, his whole demeanor, he's not aggressive like he used to be now. Does he feel the pressure of the season where he started off so great? Yeah, probably. But there's still time for him to finish strong. So I don't know if they've tried to even talk to him because when John talks about it post game, he just is like, yeah, you just leave him out there and just let him go. But some guys, sometimes even a veteran like that needs a little chat to clear the air. Like find out what's wrong with him, find out what he's doing, let him just talk it out. I don't know if he gets a chance to do that.
I think, like, Torts really just thinks that Konechny is a guy you have to leave alone and let
I
him work
know.
out his own thing. That's just what he thinks, and I don't know if there's any way around it, and I don't know what mechanism there is to change that. That's the problem.
Yeah. But even if it's
It
someone in the organization, somebody else, not Torts,
yeah.
just takes him aside and says, "Hey,
Maybe Danny Briere can talk to him.
maybe somebody, anybody,
Yeah,
he
yeah,
needs something."
yeah. I would say in the mixed bag category here, goaltending is the
Oh,
first
yeah.
thing that comes to
But not to
mind.
dote off as much. I mean, I think he's been marginally
That's
good.
why I say a mixed bag, right?
Yeah. Yeah. He's been marginally good.
Yeah, and I would say, his, save percentage was higher than Ersson's,
Yeah.
goals against was lower. then Sam Erson's goals against average in the homestand was like 4.5.
Oh,
That's brutal. Absolutely brutal there. And, obviously because there was a goalie pull situation, Ersson played all or part of 5 games, and Fedotov played all or part of 3 games, like 2 complete games and a partial
right.
there. So, neither of them look great in the win-loss column, but again, it's a team sport, so
It
not
is.
putting it all on them as we've talked about with everything, but both of them got decent amounts of ice time to show what they could do, and Fedotov certainly looked better.
Yeah, and he deserves more ice time, which they're going to give him now, saying it's a full tandem. It only took him 3/4 of a season to get there, but okay, they're there.
Yeah. And I would say the other mixed bag for me is Cam York. I think he's generally played better, but he's had some moments of bad decision making. So, I think there's room for improvement, but I do think that the net is positive there.
I think the net's positive. I remember looking at Instat yesterday for him, and he's still only at 0.63 hits per game. And
Right.
to me, it's like if you are going to be a top pairing defenseman, you just have to be more physical or at least be better at shutting down guys. So whichever it is, but I think it's easier for him to be a little bit more physical because he's been building his body up for a couple of years. And I think that's a mindset. And I still don't see that mindset out of him.
I think that's a fair point. All right. We have a big game against the Tampa Bay Lightning to start a big week on the road for the Flyers. We're going to talk about that, plus have our nemesis of the week coming up next. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you, unsaturated fats to keep you feeling fuller longer. Personally, I love the no shells variety. They're the perfect grab and go snack. I have them at my desk. And I had some friends over for a movie night a little ways back. Instead of popcorn, I let everybody try all the Wonderful Pistachios flavors. They were all great, but the chili roasted no shells and the sea salt and vinegar no shells were definitely the biggest hits. So delicious and healthy too. Wonderful Pistachios is a complete protein providing all 9 essential amino acids. Get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more.
Ever check your bank account and wonder where'd all the money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You could track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place so you could stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you could use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals, and you'll find things you never knew about your spending habits. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off of your first year.
All right. So we do see the Tampa Bay Lightning tonight. Obviously, we saw them very recently, and that was the one sort of positive game in the road
The
trip,
one.
or sorry, in the homestand
Homestand. Yeah.
prior to this road trip. We also faced the Caps, the Stars, and the Blackhawks this week on the road. Kind of a mix of different kinds of teams, which I think is really interesting, and it'll be fun just to see a bunch of these teams that we haven't seen in a while. But as far as, adjustments to make against Tampa tonight, I think they need to get back to how they played them last time, to be aggressive on the forecheck. They were so good at getting sticks in to intercept passes and prevent chances. Like, just do that again.
Yeah.
So, looking at our nemesis of the week, before we get to that, I do want to address the whole Andre and Mitchkov look-alike thing that was mentioned on the broadcast. And I guess it's a thing now where people like think they look alike, and they're good friends
Right.
now, which is kind of cool. But I don't think they look alike at
I
all.
don't know. The hair is way different.
I
That's to me, the
know.
hair is the tell.
And also, I think, like, maybe just because 'cause they're both, like, super white, but, like, that's the only thing I
Right.
can come
I
up
mean, they're
with here.
similar builds, even though Mitchkov is a
Yeah.
little huskier, but I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I don't get it, but I'm glad they're buds and they're becoming
Yeah,
friends because you want, like, future your current to future young stars of
you
your
do.
team
You have to
forming these
build that
bonds.
young core. Yep.
Yeah, I think it's really important. So, looking forward to maybe some buddy videos from the social media team, over the next
Yeah.
couple of years there. As far as the Nemesis goes, last week I talked about this being kind of the dead zone of this season in terms of we know they're not making the playoffs, but what can we accomplish here? And it's another rough week in the dead zone, but
Yep.
hopefully the road trip here can turn things around. You talked about TV shows and movies that have slow covers of pop hits in
I
their
heard some more this
soundtrack.
week too from different ones.
And, we have a slightly differing opinion of them. I get what you're saying about them, that sometimes they're annoying, but also some of them I really like. I like interesting covers of songs, and sometimes they really fit the mood of the scene. So, I think it's a case by case situation for me on there. Now, as far as my nemesis this week goes, it is definitely road trip related here. And it is the constant barrage of Alex Ovechkin goal scoring record content we are getting from every which direction. Now, I am very, very happy that it appears the Flyers have dodged the bullet
They
because he
have.
has eight goals to go, only one game in between. Like, that would have to be the craziest scenario
I
for it
think
to
didn't
happen.
Daryl Sittler have 7 goals or somebody like that?
Yeah, but that was 7.
Right.
So, we're still safe.
Yeah.
So, I think, like, we're good here. It's not gonna happen against the Flyers, which is great, but the downside is that we're gonna have to hear about it
Oh, yeah.
all week and probably the next several, like, couple weeks at least, right, until it happens, and then, like, during the Flyers game, we're gonna have to hear about it again and again and again, and it's annoying to me, and I'm like, "Whatever, break the record, don't break the record, doesn't matter to me." So, that is my nemesis this week.
All right. My nemesis is gonna be one where I think you're gonna be very surprised at this. Uh, we need to do away with coin currency in this country. So here's the thinking on this. Last year, it cost $1.04 billion to run the currency part of it with coin. A penny costs 3.7 cents to make. That's a penny. A nickel cost 13.8 cents to make. A nickel. So you're at a loss for every nickel you make. You're at a bigger loss than what's a penny. Like, what are we doing here? Like, just stop all of it. Round up all the prices or come out with like some sort of, government debit card that everybody could use for free with no
Well, that
operating
would cost its
charges.
own money,
No, it
though.
would, but it wouldn't cost $1 billion. But I just say round up all the numbers. Like, that's it. Just round up all the numbers. There doesn't be 99 and doesn't need to be 99 anymore. Figure it out. Let the math guys figure it out. But this is a lot of money that's just wasted on something that
First off, I'm insulted that you said math guys, because women are very good at math,
I meant math anybody.
including myself.
That's fair.
But as spreadsheet girl, I
No,
can
no, that's fair.
say, but I mean, the way around it is what most other countries do with where they set prices on things so that the tax comes out
Right.
to it being an even number, right? We could do that here and we
Yes.
don't. And I am all for that to reduce the need for coins. I don't think coins
Yeah.
should necessarily go away because I think there should be things that cost less than a dollar in this country. I think you should still be able
Good
to
luck
get.
finding them.
I know, but there should be, like,
Right.
candy, drinks, whatever.
Okay.
So I do think there is a need for coins in terms of things costing less than a dollar. And I also think there's a way to use fewer coins and be somewhere in the middle here. And that's
Yeah. So let
that's
the math
the happy
geniuses
medium
figure
for
this
me.
out. But I think, yeah, they can do it.
All right. I think we did come out at a happy medium
We did.
there on
Half the
on
budget
that
on it.
one.
There you go.
Yeah, yeah. But and collecting coins is fun, and having the different coins to honor people is fun.
I mean, we may
And
like it. I don't know if anybody who's 20 years old cares. I think they look at
maybe
coins
they
as a
do.
nuisance. I think they look at it as a nuisance.
I don't know.
We'll find
I don't
out, I
know about
guess.
that. But that will do it for today's show. Thanks so much for listening. Tomorrow on the show, we will recap tonight's game against the Tampa Bay Lightning. We will have Phantoms Tuesday, where we're going to have some good Alexei Kolosov talk on that show. So, very excited to get to that. As a reminder, we always want to hear from you. If you've got mailbag questions or Flyers thoughts, let us know on any of our socials at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail or comment on our YouTube channel. I'm Rachel. I'm on Blue Sky and Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology on the same socials, SPORTSOLOGY.
Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen today. For your next listen, check out the Locked On NHL podcast. It brings you daily league-wide stories that matter with local coverage you love from Locked On. I'm on there each and every Friday, as well as the Women's Hockey Report on Saturdays. So find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Have a great day, everyone.